We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway in Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend. With your comments in the chat, with your phone calls later in the show. Welcome in, everybody. This is a PATC breakfast show. I know everyone's going to be busy later in the evening. It's New Year's Eve. So this is going to be our last show, our last live show for the year. I first want to thank you all for giving us an incredible year here at Peek Around the Corner. It's been a fantastic college football season. There's been a lot of drama. There's going to be a lot of drama next year. Next year is going to be absolutely crazy. We're going into uncharted waters. The 12-team playoffs, how that's all going to work out, the storylines. I believe the increased storylines in the next season, during the season, because of the 12-team playoffs. It's going to be fascinating to watch, to cover. Holy smokes. On our show today, I want to talk about the bowl games. Yes, they're being devalued. There is a way to fix them, But the answer in fixing the bowl games is the answer to fixing just about everything. We're going to get into that. My final thoughts. I want to get your final thoughts and predictions on the semifinal games. I have not made it a secret who I believe is going to win those games. I want to get your thoughts on it. We're going to talk about Catapult, the possible scandal or not. We talked about it in an episode 2 days ago. I'm still getting raked over the coals. I have no idea why. No idea why. Maybe you can tell me. I guess I'm not accusing Ohio State Buckeyes of cheating, and that's why I'm being unfair to Michigan. I don't understand the logic. I'm getting raked over the coals, but you can let me know in the chat or with your phone calls after the monologue. Okay. First of all, let me thank everybody for coming on in. If you want to support this channel, through a donation, hit the $ with a comment. We'll get to your comment with a super chat. We'll get to your comment as soon as possible. Coy's in the house. Thanks for coming on in. Ryan Brooks is in the house. Spirit Cat Steve is in the house. Randy Taylor. The Evo Badger. Jeff Olson. He's in the house. I bet Jeff Olson has some big plans tonight. Bernie, good morning from 60-degree Houston. Good morning to you, Abe. Appreciate it. Joe Z is in the house. Jared Jones is in the house. Early Peak members, Joe Z, Jared Jones, D5 Terps. Watching the Terps thrashing Auburn for the third time this morning. Holy cow. Corey, bad showings for Florida State, Ohio State, Penn State. I'll get to that in a second. Don Scruggs is in the house. Red Legs is in the house. Appreciate coming on in. Craig Kurtz. Matt Snuck is in the house. NIL donors upset with all the opt-outs. Absolutely. Ryan Brooks, even if Florida State quarterback was playing, it would not have been close. Okay, first of all, we'll take the Florida State-Georgia game. Congratulations to Georgia. Biggest blowout victory, whatever. Congratulations to the players. Again, when I'm watching these bowl games, I'm looking at the individual performances of players who are coming back next year. That's what I'm looking at. Beyond that, I'm not looking at, these are not the teams that played during the regular season. Not anymore. So beyond that, look, example. Notre Dame blew out Oregon State. Angeli, the quarterback, Stephen Angeli, I've talked about him. Is he going to go in the portal? Looks like he's not going to go in the portal. But I've talked about Angeli as being the guy that I wanted to see play some football. He's got some talent. I love this high school tape. I thought if he goes in the transfer portal, schools like Maryland, although they got their guy now with MJ Morris, but a school like Rutgers, they would go after him. Stephen Angeli, Riley Leonard's coming in next year, and he's definitely going to be quarterback one. Stephen Angeli's going to have to wait yet another year. You have CJ Carr behind him, who looks like he's a very highly recruited high school player. And Angeli did fantastic. If he goes in the portal, we'll see what happens. But it's stuff like that I'm looking at. Florida State being blown out by Georgia has absolutely nothing to do, in my strongly held opinion, has nothing to do with what type of team Florida State was this year. None. Zero. It has nothing to do if Florida State should not have been in the playoffs because they got nah. That they were without Coleman and Wilson, Veras. They were without. You cannot go down that, seriously, guys, gals. You cannot go down that road. If you believe Florida State should not have been in the 14 playoffs, that's fine. But you can't take what happened last night in as part of your evaluation. That's absolutely ridiculous. It really is. These teams are not who they were during the season in these bowl games. And what's happening is it's devaluing the bowl games. Now, bowl games still make money for their sponsors, for the communities that have the bowl games. But that might not be the case 2, 3, 4 years from now. Because what we're watching is terrible. It's terrible. I love college football, obviously. It's my passion. It's why I have this YouTube channel, right? That's why you and I, we talk college football 365 days a year. But these bowl games are absolutely terrible. And I'm not going to blame the coaches. I'm not blaming, look, they've got to fix it. Or they don't fix it, and these bowl games are going to be devalued. They're not going to be profitable, and they're going to be going away. And maybe they should go away. Maybe they should. 12-team playoffs, you got 11 games, bowl games go away. But if you want to save the bowl season, I think the answer in saving the bowl season is the answer in saving everything. And that is these student athletes get represented by an organization, and there's a collective bargaining agreement between the players and some governing body, probably the conferences themselves, that have legitimacy in the courts, and that collective bargaining agreement makes the players tied to a contract, and they get a balloon payment to play that last bowl game. You're still going to have opt-outs, but that's the only way to do this, in my opinion, if you want to save the bowl season. John Teal, did you watch the Shawshank Redemption yesterday? Georgia was the sisters. Florida State was Andy. I think you know what happens. Again, thank you for the super chat, John. I think people are taking the results of these games way too seriously. I'm sorry, guys. I'm probably in the minority, but way too seriously. I mean, it's fun to root for your team, but to make these wholesale judgments on what happened in these bowl games, I did a watch party, Minnesota and Bowling Green, and I had fun with it, and I said, Minnesota wins another blah, blah. Come on. Bowling Green was missing their best players. Minnesota was playing, most of the Minnesota Bowling Green game was the cameras on Cole Kramer's fiance in the stands. Because Cole Kramer didn't play for 5 years. People are taking way too much into the Georgia-Florida State game. Kirby Smart said this has got to get fixed. That was not. It's got to get fixed. Or it doesn't get fixed, and you do away with bowl games, any games that don't have the playoffs, the incentives. And we're probably going to still get players opting out even when their team makes the playoffs. But at least you're going to have most of the team representing what happened during the season. Ryan Willie, sorry, Greg, but the evil Badger can't cheer for Michigan. I'd root for many before Michigan. Bama versus Washington and Natty. Huskies win. There are too many bowls. Thank you so much for your super chat, Ryan. I appreciate your continued generosity. So, look, Jerry Jones, agree completely, Greg. And look at Ohio State, right? Devin Brown gets injured. People are ripping on Ryan Day for not having the third string quarterback prepared. None of these teams have their third string quarterback prepared. Most of the reps go to your QB number one throughout the season. When your guy goes down, when your QB goes down, your QB two, especially a guy coming off injuries, Devin Brown, are going to get all the reps. You're not going to have. This isn't the NFL. You only have so much hours with these guys during the week. I love the bowl games growing up. I loved them. I still watch them. But I'm looking at individual performances, guys who are coming back next year. That's what if a team beats another team by 20 points, congratulations on the win, be happy. But just to just annihilate what a team has done during the season, because Florida State were missing all their guys, ladies and gentlemen. They were missing all of them. All of them that are going to the NFL. You cannot possibly have that game make you decide, oh, geez, I guess they should not have been in the playoffs. That is, you're not using any logic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be coming off so strong here. But if you believe that Florida State should not have gone to the playoffs, or you believe they should have gone to the playoffs, either way, before that game starts, that game last night should not influence you one bit. If Florida State was in the playoffs, Rodmaker was going to be playing. Wilson was going to be playing. Jared Verse was going to be playing. Coleman was going to be playing. All the guys would be playing. So, that's my serious thoughts on it. Google's Cole Kramer's fiance. Well, she was hot. No one can take that Georgia-Florida State game seriously. Like the Georgia players play great games. That's fantastic. A lot of those guys got some practices. The practices are, very useful, especially for these young guys. Georgia should be happy, but you shouldn't be to rip on Florida State or rip on any of these teams' performances. Man, you are losing. To me, you're losing some perspective here. These teams are not what they were during the season. All of them aren't what they were during the season. These are not the bowl games of 5 years ago, of 10 years ago, of 20 years ago, where the only players you're missing are the guys who are injured, nicked up. They're just missing most of their great players. And I tell you what, the viewership are going to go down in these bowl games. It's going to get to the point where these bowl games are not going to make money for the sponsorships. It's going to take a while. The viewership of bowl games is still higher than NCAA basketball games and what have you. I understand the value of bowl games, but it's going to drop. Viewership is going to drop because what you're trying to sell is competition. And these teams going in their bowl games do not represent the teams that played during the season. Now, how do you solve it? Again, I think it has to do with contracts. Some people have the belief that maybe we should move the bowl games into the spring. Again, you're not playing the bowl game with the same guys that you did during the season. So I don't think that solves it either. Okay, so that's enough of that about the bowl games. Again, I'm still having some interest in watching them. I'm watching individual performances. Drew Aller, Penn State. Penn State was missing some guys too, obviously, but Drew Aller, again, he's gonna have to get better next year for Penn State to challenge for a playoff spot. Drew Aller is gonna have to elevate his play. The Buckeyes, the quarterback situation, Devin Brown gets injured again. Is he the guy? Should he be quarterback number one? Or the Buckeyes going to grab someone in the portal? I think they should. But we'll see. My final thoughts, and then we're going to get to Catapult. Then we're going to get into a little bit of Clemson. Yeah, I enjoy the bowl games, but I think people are taking the results way, way too seriously. I was astonished reading some of the comments on X. Anyways, that's just my thoughts on it. My final thoughts on the semifinal games, and I'm going to open up the phone lines here shortly. But I want to get into Catapult. I want to get into a little bit of Clemson talk. But Texas and Washington. My prediction is Washington wins 38-35. I've actually gone back. I've actually watched the Texas games, Washington games, catching the end of those games. I do not see how Washington, they could be down by 4, up by 4 at the end of the game, but Washington's going to score the last time they have the ball. That's how I'm looking at this game. I do not see Texas stopping Washington when they need to stop them. I do not see them stopping Ndunze, McMillan, Michael Penix, Grubb, the offensive coordinator, when it goes down to the stretch. When it goes down to the final 4 or 5 minutes, Washington is not going to get stopped. Unless Texas has the ball last, kicks a field goal, makes a big touchdown at the very last end of the game, Washington is going to pull this game out. I've got Washington 38-35 Texas. I predicted Texas in the offseason. I predicted Texas would win the Big 12. I said Texas is back. I did not think they were going to make the 4-team invitational. I thought they were going to fall just short. But Texas, you could see it coming. You could see this program is humming under Sarkisian. I had them winning the Big 12. I had Washington winning the Pac-12. But I don't see Texas defense making enough plays against this well-oiled machine of the Washington Huskies. So I've got Washington winning this game 38-35. Michigan, Alabama. There's a whole lot of drama in this game, obviously, right? We've talked about it. I've got Michigan winning 30-20. Michigan's going to have some issues. I think they're going to have some issues downfield. I think their wide receivers are going to have a hard time getting open. Roman Wilson is going to have to be at his best. Love Lane, the tight end, is going to have to make some crucial third down catches. But J.J. McCarthy, I think he's got enough juice to make some plays against that rush of the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think he's going to make some plays with his legs. And I believe Michigan is going to beat Alabama. Michigan's defense is what's going to win this game. They're going to create some turnovers on Milroe and Alabama. That's how I see this game playing out. Michigan's going to win the turnover battle. They're going to make enough plays. Michigan 30, Alabama 20. I want to hear your final predictions, your final thoughts in the chat. And I'm going to put up the poll right now on how do you think this game is going to go. Right now, we're going to do it PATC community. Does Alabama defeat Michigan? Yes or no? Does Alabama defeat Michigan? Yes, Alabama wins. No, Michigan wins. PATC community, your vote starts now. Yes, Alabama wins. No, Michigan wins. Does Alabama defeat Michigan? Yes, Alabama. No, Michigan. Going to give everybody 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the poll, 67%. Big PATC community went big on Alabama. Okay, I'm marking that down. Now let's get to the next game here. Does Washington defeat Texas? Yes, you believe Washington's going to win. No, you believe Texas is going to win. The voting begins now. Does Washington defeat Texas? Yes is Washington. No is Texas. Going to give the voters 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The voters have taken Washington. So, the PATC community has Alabama and Washington in the final. I had Michigan, Washington in the finals. We shall see. Okay, and then I want to get to Catapult, and then I want to get to Clemson. Just want to make a few comments on Clemson, on where we believe all that is heading. Okay, Catapult. Again, thank you all for joining us. Very unusual time, Sunday morning, PATC Breakfast Live Show. Thanks for you all joining us. We're just going to talk some college football in the morning. I know everyone's going to be busy during the afternoon and the evening. I know I'm going to be busy. So I just wanted to do this last live show for the year. And I want to thank everybody for the incredible year you have given us here at PATC. Now, Catapult. We covered the story on episode 351, I believe. A couple days ago, Dan Wenzel, Catapult, a video and data analysis company used in college football, confirms the NCAA and local authorities are investigating unauthorized access of footage. The investigation is not centered on Michigan, but rather on at least one other school, sources tell Yahoo Sports. Okay? Well, this, I guess, rumor started way back here. This is called Total Pro Sports. I'm going to pop it up here. Let me get this bigger. We're not going to go through this whole article. I just wanted to show you. This was from November 3rd 2023. Breaking. Michigan Wolverines are now gathering evidence to expose Ohio State for shady actions. Michigan football may be undefeated, ranked in the top 5, but the sign-stealing scandal continues to grow by the day. Michigan football program remains in hot water as the NCAA investigates the Wolverines. Now there's an investigation at Michigan on how their sign-stealing scandal came about and reached the NCAA, according to the Wolverines' Chris Ballas. The investigation reportedly centers on family members of Ohio State coach Ryan Day. So, again, Chris Ballas on 3 Sports. Michigan is gathering evidence on 2 private investigators. They are behind the investigation. The people in question have ties to Ryan Day. That ended up not being true. The private investigators were not. The investigation was not done from that investigation firm. There has been rumors circulating about how now employees of Catapult, video company, teams, they videotape their practices. They can go back later and watch the practices, analyze them. There's a couple of people who are on Catapult's. They are hired by Catapult. They used to be with the Ohio State football program. So the theory is, by many in Michigan, believe that maybe the passwords were given from the people who work at Catapult to Ohio State, and they were able to log on to other schools' practices, like Penn State, like Michigan. That's the theory. Now, there was an article from The Athletic. Film company Catapult launched security investigation amid Alabama and Michigan concerns ahead of the Rose Bowl. Catapult, a company that provides video storage for college football programs and other organizations, said it is supporting an ongoing investigation with the NCAA and local authorities after players from Alabama and Michigan said they were made aware of security concerns with the platform. We are aware of the ongoing investigation of the alleged unauthorized access to NCAA football video footage, a Catapult spokesperson said in a statement. We have conducted an internal investigation and have not found any security breach in our systems. We have shared this with local authorities that are conducting an investigation. I'm not going to go through the whole article. We did it. An episode 351. Go watch the whole thing. It was 2 days ago. We did an episode on it. The company did not specify which local authorities were investigating or which schools were involved. A Michigan spokesman said that the school took down its cloud-based storage system in early November amid concerns it had been targeted in a potential breach. The players could access film from Michigan servers while inside universities' facilities, but weren't given access to watch it remotely on tablets or other devices. Again, you can read the whole thing from The Athletic or go on episode 351 and watch our episodes. Don't know if there was a breach. Catapult did an internal investigation and said they didn't see anything. Maybe there was some passwords passed to somebody. Maybe there is a scandal. But we do not, at this point, have the evidence for it. There is a local authorities are investigating. We do not know who the local authorities are. It is not the University of Michigan's police or Michigan's police department, supposedly, as is said in the article. We do not know which schools are involved, if anybody is involved. We don't know much at all. So, again, I said in episode 351, let's see it play out. Let's play the investigation out. Let's see if there is a scandal. Now, I got absolutely hammered in the comment section, which I'm fine with, but some of that was, wow, like, Greg, you were against due process for Michigan. Now you due process for Ohio State. I was for due process for Michigan. They received their due process. They were talked about. They got a call from the NCAA, Big Ten, Michigan. We're all in a meeting October 18th. October 18th. Michigan was given all the evidence. Michigan didn't even go to the court. Remember, they had that court case lined up because Jim Harbaugh got a 3-game suspension, but they didn't even fight that. They were given due process. Tony Petitti handed down a penalty. I thought it was the correct penalty. Some thought it was not enough. Some thought it was too much. Okay? I thought it was just about right. But Michigan was given due process. There's an avalanche of evidence. There's film of Connor Stalions, people in Connor Stalions seats that he bought, filming across the stadium. We don't have, at this point in time, how could I possibly know if the Ohio State Buckeyes are involved in this massive scandal? How could I possibly know that? If they are, I'm going to be reporting it. I'm going to be talking about it. We're going to be talking about penalties. We're going to be talking about a humongous, massive scandal. But just because there's people who worked at Ohio State and now they work at Catapult doesn't mean the Ohio State football program is involved in some massive scandal. I'm sure there's other people working at Catapult who work for the video team for other programs as well. You cannot make that leap. Again, I showed you the article earlier from a Michigan guy, Chris Ballas, who made the leap that it was Ohio State's Ryan Day's brother investigation firm that did this. It started the initial investigation on the in-person scouting. And NCAA has come out and said, no, that's not the case. So I'm not going to make a leap. We're not going to make a leap here at PATC. If this is a scandal, if somebody actually pulled this off, if somebody broke into the system or was just handed a password for Penn State's practices, Iowa's practices, Georgia's practices, and that all filtered to a team, a certain team, be it Ohio State, be it Minnesota, be whoever, we're going to talk about it here at Peek Around the Corner. But we're not going to make a leap. I mean, that's ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. I get it. Michigan fans, even though they're having an unbelievable year, I think they're going to win it all. I think they're going to beat Bama. They're still upset about Connor Stalions being caught with in-person scouting. And of course, Jim Harbaugh had to take the penalty of that. They were given due process. They were given a lot of due process. They're going to get a notice of allegations from the NCAA on in-person scouting. And then they're going to have 90 days to respond. Michigan's getting due process up the yin-yang. I'm not going to go turn around and just to make some people happy say, Ohio State's guilty. Penn State's guilty. Georgia, I don't know who did this, but they're guilty. We don't even have evidence that anything really happened. Jim Harbaugh talked about it yesterday. He was asked a question. He said, yeah, it was based on rumors. We have no idea. We're not pointing fingers at anybody. Come on. I did an episode 351 on this story, Catapult story, because The Athletic came out with an article. I was getting lambasted, saying, Greg, you're not covering the. Okay, I covered it. I'm covering it on another live show again this morning. PATC breakfast. I'm going to cover it again. I'm going to cover the story again once we get more reporting, if we get some evidence. I see people blaming Pete Thamel. Pete Thamel's not covering it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a story, but it's not. We need to see how this plays out. Okay? This is the best I can do on the story. That it really has no evidence yet. Catapult did an investigation and they couldn't find any breach. That doesn't mean nothing bad happened. It doesn't mean nothing bad happened. Somebody, in theory, could have passed a password on to another person, another football program, and they were able to break in and watch. But that is just a theory. These are rumors. So if anything becomes real on this, we'll cover it at Peek Around the Corner. Okay? Hopefully that satisfies everybody. Now, it's not going to satisfy anybody. Now on Clemson. We have not heard from Graham Neff, the athletic director, right? We've been told once again, reconfirmed on a few items when it comes to Clemson. Number one, we're still looking at that third week in January, or that fourth week in January, or that first week in February, when Clemson is going to say something of importance when it comes to this matter, when they're going to put their flag into the ground. We still believe that's going to happen here at Peek Around the Corner. Number two, Clemson they know everything before Florida State said everything they did at the Board of Trustees. Clemson had all of that same information. They were working closely with Florida State on that. It's been publicly reported by multiple outlets that did happen. So Clemson knows where everything lays. In regards to the argument that Florida State is making, Clemson's going to make the same argument. So we're still waiting. January 20th, February 16th, that date range that we were told a couple months ago that we reported. We still believe Clemson is still hanging on to their same timeline. Florida State sped up their timeline. Clemson has not changed it. So let's keep an eye on Clemson going into January when it comes to the Holy Smokes Theater. John Teal, I'm a UCLA fan, and I'll figure out a way to be at the game with Minnesota next year. I'll bet you a hot dog with all the bells. Bama beats Michigan. Thank you, John, for the super chat. I appreciate it so very much. I think most people think Bama's going to beat Michigan. If you take a poll across the country, I don't think so. Rock and Rant, Georgia, just scored again. Thank you, Rock and Rant, for your super chat. Thank you, John. Appreciate the generosity to the channel once again. Bull Stacker says Bulls will not exist in less than a decade. It very well could happen. There was a comment here. Be careful about this, guys. Mr. Monkey says, after Missouri beat Ohio State, my confidence is low in Michigan. Again, I see no correlation in that. That was not the Ohio State team that had played during the season. To me, it's obvious. I like watching these bowl games. I'm rooting for one team to win over another. But I'm watching individual players, see what type of performance, how they look. Again, to me, Angeli, the quarterback of Notre Dame, was a great example of that. I watched him. He looked sharp, as I thought he was going to look. I don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to go in the portal? If he does, There's going to be some suitors out there, especially on the East Coast where he's from. If he stays at Notre Dame, he's going to be the backup to Riley Leonard. Those are the things I'm looking at. But Missouri beating Ohio State, big win for Missouri. Great season for Missouri. But to measure Michigan based upon Ohio State's performance, when Ohio State, that wasn't the same Ohio State team. It just wasn't. And again, I politely disagree with you, Mr. Monkey says. That wasn't the Florida State team that played all year long, so it shouldn't have anything to do. It doesn't make any logical sense to me at all. None. Florida State was missing the two great wide receivers. They were missing everybody. So why should that have anything to do if Florida State should have made the playoffs or not? I don't get it. People are taking the results of these bowl games, cheer your team to win, congratulate your team, get ready for next year. You have all those extra practices. But to start evaluating what happened during the season based on these bowl games when all these great players are not playing makes no logical sense to me. And I seem to be in the minority in this as well. We're going to open up the phone lines right now. Tell the fat guy from Minnesota how wrong I am. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Miller Moss, USC. Love that performance. Right? Is he the starter for USC? But again, USC, that team, all these teams are not playing in the bowl game. They're not representing the team that they played as they were during the season. None of these teams are. Except for maybe the playoff teams.
Call from
J.
I'm sorry, I did not get the name.
JD.
Oh, JD, Mr. Seminole, the floor is yours. How you doing, sir? Happy New Year's Eve.
Happy New Year's to you, sir. I was calling in to take the actual L.
Yeah?
Because we suffered a major L yesterday. But I had some belief that we would keep it somewhat close until the game was about to start, and I saw the players on the field, and a majority of them, or a good percentage of them on defense, have never seen the field this year.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh, this isn't going to go well. And at that point, I just was like, just don't hit 60. Don't hit 60. And I mean, let's just be realistic. Yeah. Everybody in college football knows, or anybody that has paid attention to the sport, the team we put out there that yesterday would have gone 0-12.
Yeah,
they would have gone 0-12. They would have lost to North Alabama. They would have lost to Southern Miss.
Yeah,
they just would have.
Yeah,
and you know, I'm gonna say something that's probably an unpopular opinion. I don't blame the kids for opting out. I don't. I mean, I wish they would have played? Sure, I do. But those kids, a lot of them could have gone to the NFL last year. They came back. They wanted to do something special. They went undefeated, and then they were told their season didn't matter. They were told their undefeated season didn't matter. And their leader 2 weeks before broke his leg right in front of them.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden everybody's saying, oh, well, you should just take this little bowl game. Don't get me wrong, the Orange Bowl is not just some little piddly little game. But they're going to sit there and say, oh, you should just take this bowl game. Here's what a lot of people don't know. A lot of those guys needed surgery. A good percentage of those NFL guys that are going to the NFL have already had surgery. They couldn't go change their mind because they've already had surgery.
Yeah.
You know, the little cleanup procedures and things. There was so much I mean, here's something else that a lot of other players had even told Norvell if it would have been different. Or Norvell even talked about this in his press conference yesterday. If they'd have lost somewhere in the season and they went 12-1, most all of them would have played.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely felt, right or wrong, they felt betrayed. Not by FSU. They felt betrayed by the whole process.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you, I can't blame them.
No.
I can't blame them. Fans can think what they want, whatever. Most of this SEC media, as far as I'm concerned, can pound sand. Because, and you're going to hear it later today. You're going to hear it by other people calling in. People are talking about, well, it's just, the culture in the program or whatever. And I understand. I am not faulting Georgia. Listen to Kirby Smart's comments after the game. And listen to the expanded one where he's talking about FSU's a good team, FSU's a good program. Don't pay attention, and I'm paraphrasing here, the results on the field, because if they had their full arsenal of players, it would have had a 100% different effect. Doesn't mean FSU would have won, but it would have had a completely different effect on the game. And I'm sorry, if this would have happened to Georgia, they'd gone undefeated and they got left out. Do you think their whole arsenal of players would have played? I can guarantee you they wouldn't.
Yeah.
I guarantee they would have felt something like they were just completely disrespected. I don't know. I just know that it's of my personal opinion, a lot of the stuff that's been going on, I'm not going to go there. I'm sorry. I'm just, I'm getting into conspiracy theory now, but I'll just leave it alone.
No, that's all right.
But,
I agree with you, obviously. I started the show. I was not expecting much of any of those games. That's why I haven't been doing watch parties, because it's just, it isn't really, for me, it isn't, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but for me, it's really not team versus team. I'm looking at individual performances, saying, okay, I'm going to keep my eye on that guy for next year, stuff like that. I'm just not looking at these results as meaningful at all. To be honest with you all, I'm not looking at these games because they're not meaningful. They're just not. The bowl games, the value of the bowl games have slid off the table. And it's either going to get fixed, and I think it's only going to be done by contracts with the players, or it's not going to get fixed, and they're going to go away, or they're going to decline rapidly in these bowl games. The sponsors are not going to make money anymore. That's just the way it is. And I can't blame the player. I agree with JD. But then, please, if you are acknowledging that all these players are opting out, which they are, then don't take the results seriously. Don't be saying, oh, well, that means that other team is not going to do well because they're from the same Come on. That Florida State team had no representation of the Florida State team that played during the year. A Georgia team didn't have any representation of the Georgia team that played. These games, the results, I love college football. It is my passion. Bowl games were always my passion. But these bowl games, the results of them are meaningless. Go ahead, Jay.
You and I had a conversation earlier in the season. Oh, and I agree with your statement, by the way. You and I had a conversation before the season started, and I talked about FSU's the season ahead, our predictions. I said FSU 1 through 30 on their roster can match up with anybody in the country. I said the drop-off was after that. And we see that. I've seen on Twitter and other places, people are like, why didn't FSU have their third-string quarterback further along? Well, he got hurt in the second week of the season, and he just got back a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
With a broken hand. I mean, what's the kid supposed to do? It seemed like there was a lot of improvement from the ACC championship game till now. Is he still off? Of course he is. He's a true freshman. He's only been on campus for however many months. And then, like I said, you've only had limited practices. And so I don't know. I mean, and again, yeah, our third and fourth string is not as good as Georgia's. It is not. And I knew that, and I knew that coming in. 2024 was a unique season. It was the season that we had enough transfers to get us over the hump to get recruiting back to the way that it should be, so that, 2023. And then 2024, we'd be a competitive team, probably top 15, might sneak into the playoffs next year. Who knows? With the transfer portal, we might be a really good team next year. I don't know. It could go either way. Everybody's fighting for these kids. Who knows? And we don't even know who's going to still jump out into the portal. So, 2025, 2026, 2027, we are contenders. Yeah. I would think 2025, I believe we were going to be a national championship contender. I might be a year early on that, but we'll see. But I think we'll be in the playoff. So everybody's got a fighting chance when you get in there. But it's just, yeah, I've had more debates in the last, I don't know how many hours since the game with Bama fans on we should or should have not. And then they all come back to kids opting out. And then we all go back to, I'll start bringing out receipts, and then they just disappear.
Yep.
And but it's just, it is what it is. They're in a conference that fought for them, and they weren't in this position. They had a network that went to battle for them, and they weren't in this position. If they were in this position, they'd feel the same way. Everybody would feel the same way.
Yeah.
So, do I wish the kids would have played? Yes, I do. Am I mad at them for not? No, I'm thankful for what they did.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Have a great day, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate it, JD. Great call, Mr. Seminole. Thanks, man.
Happy
Appreciate
New
it.
Year. Happy New Year.
Great call, Rock and Rant. I may have missed it, but didn't you think Clemson's AD would have a comment like Miami at the bowl? But yes, he did not have a comment. But we did talk about it in the monologue here. We still think Clemson's going to say something.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate. Can you hold on 1 second?
Yep.
I appreciate it. Just got to get caught up here. But I do think we still believe Clemson's going to make a statement. Same as reported a couple months ago. Still on schedule for it. I still think we got to keep all eyes on Clemson in the 3rd week January, 4th week January, 1st week February. That's what we were told a couple months ago. We have been reconfirmed on that. So we shall see. Thank you, Rock and Rant, for your generosity once again to the channel. Let me get caught up here. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Thanks for an awesome year. Have a happy new year. Thank you, Jeremy635, on your super chat. Thank you so much. It was a great year. Fantastic year. Thank you. Appreciate your support. Ryan Willie. I don't know if I'll watch the playoff games tomorrow. ESPN has too much power in the playoff. Thank you, Evil Badger, for your super chat. Appreciate it. I'll be watching the games. These games matter. Players are playing. Coaches are coaching. It's going to be fun. We're going to be doing a doubleheader watch party. We're going to be on for like 7+ hours in a row here at Peek Around the Corner. It's a semifinal marathon. Hope you join us, Evil Badger, and everybody else. Michael Newton, beware of the term breach. For unauthorized external access, systems compromise is a negative impact on confidentiality, integrity, availability by the untrusted source, intentional or unintentional. Thank you, Michael Newton, for that super chat and for that comment. Appreciate it so very much. On the term breach, and I just want to hit a couple Now I lost it. Okay, Immaculate. Mr. Hawkeye, the floor is yours.
Well, we knew it was going to be ugly.
Yeah.
Anyone acting like the way the Orange Bowl went down is a statement about Florida State or this or that. I don't even really like to get into those type of conversations. That's just people who like to argue.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, at times it was like their second, third string going up against the first string gets beats up. Then they got to play the second and third string, and their fresh second and third string beats them, and everyone says, "See, they're better." It's like, come on, you've played football before. You understand? Like this is like they're totally demoralized. It was just really sad to see. I felt bad for it. Sorry for JD. I know it was just your previous caller. But in the end, that game is not really what matters, and that wasn't even really the big point about going after the CFP. Was even the CFP anymore, because that's changing next year. Florida State's whole thing was just about using that to get out of the ACC. So to me, it's the only big story in it is that it's more ammunition for major changes that are coming about, because now your everyday folks care, right? Like with a lot of the lawsuits and things that are going on, most people weren't even paying attention. But in the ranking of things that are going to matter in terms of changing the NCAA in the future and things that will affect the bowl games or whatever, the Orange Bowl result is actually quite low in that ranking. But yet most people will refer to it and think of it as a big deal that caused this. So it really just kind of ramped up the pressure. So I don't know, that's my thoughts on that. It's not a big deal. Next year we're going to have 12 teams. Florida State would have been one of the top 4 that would have gotten a bye. Like the whole result would have been different. So
Yeah.
I don't really know what the fight's about in terms of, let's cause change. Well, the change is already coming. But then the fight will be somewhere else, because some other schools will get left out and not get paid to go, and then their guys are going to have to go to a meaningless bowl game instead of going. So it's just moving down the rankings in terms of where that's going to happen at. So for me, I think next year, and remember, this coming month is when the NCAA convention happens here in Phoenix. That's when we could get movement on voting that could cause changes to the NCAA in advance of all of these lawsuits. So I would watch that very closely. For anyone involved in caring about the big picture, watch what happens here in Phoenix this month. Now, it's the NCAA, so it could be absolutely jack squat.
Mm-hmm.
It could be nothing. But if they can actually get people ahead of this, because they're all involved, there's a cost to everyone involved, and there's probably the same threat that they had in 2014, like, hey, if you don't give us what we need to deal with this, we're going to have to leave the NCAA. So I think that we could see something very major come out of Phoenix here in just a few days. I think it's the 9th? I think so.
I don't know.
But that's something to watch. Normally, we don't watch that stuff. It's very boring.
Yep.
But that's going to have a lot to do with the sports side and what we talk about with realignment. So
Yes, sir.
keep an eye on that.
Yep.
Other than that, go Hawks. Not a single guy's leaving. Not a single guy's opting out. Everyone's going to be there. And Joe Milton wants nothing to do with it.
Who?
So,
Who?
he saw that defense on the video and saw no one was leaving. He's like, nah, I'm going to the NFL. Bye, guys.
So what's the? We're still looking at the former Miami Dolphins head coach as the new offensive coordinator.
You talking about Philbin?
Yeah.
I'm actually putting my guess on Chris.
Oh, really? We're back on Paul Christ. Okay. All right.
A statement came out that from head coach himself saying he's looking to have that filled maybe like the 3rd week of January.
Okay.
If it was Philbin, he's done.
Yeah.
He's available now.
Okay.
Why are we waiting 3 weeks?
Okay.
But if it's Chris and they say win their first game today, well, then they're playing on the 8th. So now you're looking at, the third week is really only, another second or third week is what he said. That's like another week after that. So I think that was a signal for me that he's giving Chris time to, go through that whole process, because that's a good experience. Like, if I was head coach, I'd be like, no, you stay there, you go through that. That's something you can bring to the table. You can talk to the guys about it. That's high-end competition. That's a good experience for someone that you're going to come in and want to run your offense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's Chris. I think that was, for me, that was the signaling that Chris is the guy, and we'll get him in there. And I think the players know it too. I think that they know. I think Lachey liked it, and that's why he decided to come back. I think most of our guys are coming back. And, to a comment that was made, that is kind of a culture thing. If you can build a program from within, I know in the past it's not been a big deal. People don't care about it as much, but I think we're starting to see some of the negative ramifications of heavily building the team through the portal is when the time comes, they do not have the same loyalty. Like they just don't. Like, can't expect them to.
Yeah.
It wasn't the actual school that they even picked when they were coming out of high school. Like, it's just where they're playing to try and get a chance to go on to the next level. So, they're cutting out. And so I actually think that today's game, I know most people are probably picking Tennessee, but I don't see that happening, not at all.
Yeah.
I think Iowa will win, and then right afterwards, you're going to see some more announcements of guys coming back, like Castro and.
Wow, that'd be big news.
I think they're all coming back. I even think Dijon's coming back.
Wow.
But
Then Iowa's going to be. I don't know. They could be.
They will be competitive with everyone in the Big Ten next year if this happens.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that all they needed this year was an offense.
Yeah.
And if you have Chris coming in, I mean, he's not like, one of your best offensive minds in the whole country, but he has been the offensive analyst and, what do they call him, special assistant to Steve Sarkisian, who is an offensive mind guru. He's been with him now. So what is Chris now in terms of it? I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see if he can make that offense just be good.
Yeah.
Then I give that team, if that whole defense comes back, I give them a shot at the Big Ten next year.
Woo.
People might say it's crazy talk, but
immaculate coming out. Wow.
I mean, that's better than any team's. If you can keep those guys, that's better than any team's transfer portal success. If you can get all those guys coming back, if you bring Chris in, you get yourself maybe another wide receiver in the portal, just a little bit, because they don't have room. I don't know if people realize Iowa does not have room for transfers. If all these guys stick around, they don't have any scholarship room. So, a good problem to have. We'll see. I think that, there's been some games that the Big Ten hasn't looked great so far in the bowl game. So we had Maryland whoop Auburn, and Auburn just about beat Alabama. So, I don't think it's a complete loss for the conference, but it's not like the days when you can look at bowl game results.
Yeah, it just isn't.
And have it be like kind of the final exclamation mark on how good the season was. It's a lot of them is not even the same teams. Penn State, they lost a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is, man. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think that the bowl games time is coming to an end, but we'll see. Good talk with you, though. I'm going to let you go.
Beautiful.
We got a show tonight with Mo, and if you want to stop by, come on in, and we'll have a chat.
Got it. Thank you, Immaculate. Great job. Thank you, sir. Yeah, Auburn gets crushed, and they almost beat Alabama. And So does that mean that Alabama's really, really terrible? No, it doesn't. Now, did I think Alabama's performance against Auburn was not very good during the regular season when players were actually playing? Yes, and I think that's part of Alabama's resume, and that's one of the reasons why I think Florida State should have been picked over Alabama. But do I think the bowl result of Auburn getting crushed is somehow, oh no, Alabama is not going to be? No, you can't do that stuff. Not anymore. Not when these teams are not. When these teams don't represent who they were during the season. It's not the same. It's not the same anymore, guys. It just isn't. Ryan Willie, I hope Immaculate is wrong about Chris, former Badger coach, playing coach Benedict Chris. Holy smokes. Paul Chris, he should be able to make a living, right? If Iowa offers him that offensive coordinator position, Benedict Chris, that's rough. That's the evil Badger for you. Ryan Willie, thank you so much again for your generosity to this channel. Appreciate it very much. We're going to have a Tyler Van Dyke versus McNamara battle next year. Interesting times ahead. Thank you so very much. Okay, let's get back to the chat here. As much as I laughed about Duke's Mayo dump, I can tell bowls are basically reality TV these days. There's no real incentive to play. Yeah, I agree with you, Steven. I agree. I think people are taking... I think people are still believing the Bowls games of 2023 matter as much as they did in 2013, in 2003, in 1973. They don't. They just don't. They're not the same teams. FSU did not represent who they were during the season when the playoff committee picked playoff teams. I don't understand that. They were going to be without their quarterback, but they were going to be with their backup quarterback. But you cannot compare that Florida State team to what we saw against Georgia. I have to disagree, B Bean. But thanks for the comment.
Call from
Moen.
Mr. Buckeye. The floor is yours. What do you got to say, good sir?
Well, Happy New Year, Greg.
Happy New Year's to you.
And I wanted to touch on the Catapult thing.
Yes.
I think it's very strange that these people have corroborating evidence and they won't put their name to it.
Hold on, Moen.
Yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I got it.
Yep,
Ron Lowney. This is the second time you've made this comment. Don't watch them. Turn off the TV. Again, Ron, I've answered this question. I still watch the games, not like I used to, but I still watch them because I still want to see individual performances like Angeli, the quarterback of Notre Dame. I brought up a lot of examples. I still watch them. But I can watch them and know that the results of the game don't have any meaning whatsoever, because these are the teams that weren't playing. You can root for your team. I rooted for my Gophers, but we had a guy in there that Bowling Green was missing a bunch of plays. You can root for your team, cheer them on, be happy you win, be sad if you lost. But people are wrapping up the results of these bowl games, and then they're making these grandiose statements about the strength of the team during the season. See, they weren't any good. Those days are over, Ron. I'm sorry. You cannot seriously look at these teams and say, they're not the teams they were during the season. We can still watch them. I still have fun watching them. I'm looking at individual players' performances. But when we get into talk of this team, see, they were lousy. See, because they got blown out when were missing all their guys. That, we can honestly say, these teams are not representing the teams. The team that you see in the bowl game is not what they were during the season. We can make that honest statement and still watch the games and enjoy them for what they are, but they're not what they used to be. The bowl games are not what they used to be. That's an honest statement. Moen, go ahead. The floor is yours. I apologize for interrupting. I will not interrupt you again.
That was a classic rant, Greg. You're more than welcome to ring out the new year with a rant like that. I tend to agree with you. It's football. I made this point before. It's even bad football is still football. Remember, we don't get football for 8 months out of the year, 7 months out of the year. So take all the football we can get.
Yeah.
But it is disappointing that you're right. It's not like it used to be. It's, used to be everybody played and everybody stuck around, but that's just not the way it is anymore.
Yeah.
And I am actually not disappointed. I'm not even really mad at Ohio State lost. The defense showed up, and I will gladly give immaculate. He can have Philbin if we can have Ferenc to coach our O-line, because obviously our O-line needs a new coach or something to get them squared away. Because
we'll take Iowa's special teams coach too here at Minnesota.
Yep. We can all just separate all these coaches from Iowa.
Yeah,
they got great position coaches. So
is Jack Sawyer coming back next year?
After that performance, I don't think so. I think he just improved his draft stock to mid-second round to mid-first, late first. So he's probably not coming back. Ibuka's probably not coming back. Henderson's probably not coming back. But as to Catapult, I want to put out there, people, if nobody's willing to put their legal Christian name to something and just spread forth allegations and rumors, it's probably not true. And when you suggest that you're going to have a legal department contact them and they block you on Twitter, that's probably a good indication that it's not true. Let me ask you a question, Greg. Have you ever got your order messed up at Wendy's before?
The fat guy from Minnesota has gotten his order messed up by every fast food chain in the United States of America. Does that answer your question?
It does. Well, guess what, Greg? That was my first job when I was 16. Are you going to blame me because your order got messed up?
Yeah. No, not really.
Yeah, somebody who used to work at Ohio State works at Catapult, but so do people from LSU and a bunch of different backgrounds in college football, because that's what they specialize in, is college football video making. Yes. You can't take that and make a logical jump. It's like the movie Office Space, the jump to conclusions mat. Somebody threw down the jump to conclusions mat and just said, well, it has to be Ohio State because somebody who once worked at Ohio State works at Catapult. Well, somebody who once worked at LSU works at Catapult. Yeah. Why isn't it LSU?
Yeah. I think if you look at the comments section of my video 351, I love I love people commenting. I'm okay with people disagreeing with me, but I had some people going after me saying, well, so you want due process for Ohio State, but you didn't want it for Michigan. And I'm like, what? Michigan got all the due process you could ever wanted. They were going to go to the court to go against the Big Ten, but they pulled back because the evidence was overwhelming. And due process for Ohio State, there's not even a... No one's even pointing the finger at Ohio State except for some people in the fan base that need they need to be Ohio State guilty of something. PATC community, I will guarantee you, if this is a scandal, I will follow the story wherever it goes, even if it goes right through Minnesota into my front step. Even if I'm guilty of this, I will follow the story where it goes. But I'm not going to be cascading blame or guiltiness or anything else on universities when they're not even named in any of the reports. Nobody knows anything. I'm sorry, I'm not going to go there. It's ridiculous, guys. It's absolutely ridiculous. Go ahead, Moen.
No, Ohio State's the ultimate bad guy in college football. You have to cast those aspersions, Greg.
Well, I mean, I will when it comes to Ohio State versus the Gophers. Gophers, Ohio State favored by 29 points, but yet I'm going to cast aspersions saying the Buckeyes aren't that good. Minnesota's going to pull the upset. Yeah, I'm going to say all that stuff, right? Because even though I don't believe any of it, I'm still going to say it. But to say Ohio State's guilty of this, or Michigan or anybody else, just throwing. We don't do that here at Peek Around the Corner. If you need me to do it, this ain't the right show for you. It just isn't. If Ohio State's part of this incredible, massive scandal, and yeah, I mean, I saw some people on Twitter saying this is a death penalty case. Death penalty case? We don't even know if anyone did anything wrong yet.
No. Now listen, Greg. Ohio State is involved. It has to be a death penalty case.
What?
They're absolutely involved in everything. They kidnapped the Lindbergh baby. They're responsible for the Hindenburg crash. Ohio State is responsible for all evils. So we've accepted it as Ohio State fans. Now you just need to accept it, Greg, that Ohio State is the ultimate evil.
Well, I consider everybody in the Big Ten the ultimate evil outside of Minnesota. So that's how I look.
But some are just more evil than others, right?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna say anybody's guilty of something without, it's insanity.
Without a shred of evidence.
Not that we know of. We don't know of any evidence. If somebody has any evidence, show it to me. But nobody does. It's just, again, let's wait for the reporting. Let's see if it's a massive, and I'm going to follow the story. But I'm already getting raked over the coals on it, and whatever. But go ahead, Mo.
If you've got evidence and you're sure of it, you should be damn well proud to put your name to it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I will leave you with that, sir, and bid you adieu, and try not to imbibe too much.
Got it. Yeah, right.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Great call, Mark Ruckert. Super chat. Thank you so much, Mark, for your continued generosity to our channel. Appreciate it so very much. Happy New Year, PATC community. That's right. Happy New Year to everybody. It's been a great year.
Call from
Steve.
Steve, Mr. Bearcat is on the line. The floor is yours.
Well, happy New Year's to you and yours, Greg.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You too, sir.
Couple things. I want to touch on the Bulls. Obviously, they have less credibility than they did years ago. There's some reasons for that. And ESPN's one of the reasons for that. They set up this NY6 Bowl thing, which is great. No complaints about it. But for those who think that bowls are just going to go away, you might want to talk to the people in Jacksonville and El Paso. This is an event for them. this is one of the things that's on their calendar every year that they prepare for every week of the year. The games sometimes are, I don't want to use the word secondary, but the games are part of this whatever. And the NY6 was set up using 2 bowl games, that the Peach and the Fiesta, that were quite popular bowl games, but they haven't been around like the Sun Bowl's been around, or the Gator Bowl's been around, or the Citrus Bowl's been around. But it was ESPN that came up with the NY6. But don't think for 1 minute the people in these cities and the sponsors are going to say in 10 years, oh, we're not going to have the Gator Bowl. We're not going to have the Sun Bowl. I don't ever see that happening, Greg. I hope I'm right.
You may be right, but the reasons why they have them and why they've had them for years and years and years, decades, is because the community makes money, the sponsorship, good exposure, right, and all that. But if eventually, if this doesn't get fixed, eventually they're already being devalued. Now, are they going to get devalued to the point where, it's not worth it for the media companies to put these games on, for the sponsorships to sponsor these games because the viewership drops so low? Maybe that never happens, but the bowl games are being devalued. I can look myself. I'm watching less of them. I watched all of them. I love college football, Steve. You know that. I watch everything I possibly can watch. But these bowl games, I'm watching them completely different now. I'm just watching individual players. The games are not, they're not, they just don't represent the teams that played during the year. So they just don't have much meaning anymore.
Well, there's some things I think I don't know, whoever the hell the powers that be are in college football, I'm still trying to figure that out at this point. They can fix some of it. You're never going to fix all the kids opting out for the NFL draft. You're never going to fix some things that are happening right now, how it's evolved. But there's some things that can help. Will they ever come back? Will the bowl games ever come back to the relevancy that they once were? Very, very, very doubtful. But we shall see. The other thing I wanted to touch on, Greg, is Jim Harbaugh. The guy is, I don't know what the guy is, and I'm probably not in the minority there, but 3 weeks ago there was the reports that the contract's waiting on Harbaugh in Ann Arbor to sign it, this, that, and everything else. And I talked to some people, and they said, yeah, the contract's laying there. And if he wants to sign it with all the stipulations that are going to be in that contract, he can go ahead and sign it. Now, there's a segment, and I'm not going to say it's over 50%, but there's a segment of people, and I'll leave it at that, in Ann Arbor that aren't really on board re-signing him to a contract. And then it comes out, well, he's hired this agent. He's always had an agent, but he's hired this agent that's maybe tuned in, focused in more on the NFL side of it. So it's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out, especially when the NCAA gets around to finalizing what they have found out and what NFL teams are interested in Harbaugh, to see if that contract in Ann Arbor is going to be signed or not.
Mm-hmm. I have no idea what Jim Harbaugh is going to do, Steve.
Does Jim Harbaugh have any idea what Jim Harbaugh is going to do?
He might. These,
You know, I'm not saying that to be a smartass, Greg.
no,
But does he?
no, no. I get what you're saying. Once these, once it seems to be that once these coaches get the NFL itch. Now, this won't be his first NFL itch, but once these college coaches get this NFL itch, it needs to be scratched. If they have the opportunity to have it scratched, it seems like that's what happens. So, if Michigan gets crushed by Alabama, I can see Coach Harbaugh going, okay, I think I'm 0-3 here. This is the best team I'm going to have. Didn't quite get it done. NFL job is looking for me. Chargers, really good young quarterback. I'll take the leap, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just if his if his brother goes to the Super Bowl and wins the Super Bowl this year, which is a distinct possibility, that might, just the way Jim Harbaugh thinks, he might say, I got to get back to the NFL so I can have a chance to win a Super Bowl. I don't know. It's just, but I just wanted to emphasize that there's some influential people in Michigan that are not on board with Jim Harbaugh. Okay, and they really think the administration's handled everything badly, from their public statements to just how they've handled it overall, everything. And let's keep in mind, Harbaugh's only coached half the season this year. He didn't coach 3 games at the beginning, didn't coach 3 games at the end.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't tell people something about what's going on up there, and why people are disappointed, I don't know what else to say. I really don't. But anyhow, I'm going to watch the games. I'm like you. I've watched every bowl game. And one other thing I wanted to make. If you don't think those kids from Wyoming weren't playing for their coach yesterday, now you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the players that are playing.
Yes.
I think sometimes we focus on the players that aren't playing. Okay, I realize Toledo's 2 best offensive players weren't playing, their running back and their quarterback. There were kids from Wyoming that weren't playing. But if you don't think those kids from Wyoming didn't want to win the last game their coach was going to coach there, you got another thing coming. So I think we ought to focus on the people that are playing. Anyhow, my 2 cents worth, Greg. Have a great day. I'll talk to you again.
You got it. Appreciate it, man. Great call. Now, the name is completely escaping me, but the new head coach of Wyoming, and the name is completely gone from my head. The new head coach of Wyoming was a fantastic coach for the Gophers, secondary coach. I can't remember his name at all. He was a secondary coach under Tracy Claeys. He brought in some incredible talent. I mean, really good guy, really good coach. So I'm interested to see what happens with Wyoming in the years ahead. I know they're losing Craig Bowles, but they're bringing in a guy that I love, who I can't even remember the name. It's completely out of my brain. I'm getting old, guys. I'm getting old. He used to be, he went to Wake Forest. It didn't work out, but after Minnesota, Jay Sawville. God, thank you. Jay Sawville. Jay Sawville knows football. That's all I'm going to say about that. So I'm not surprised he's getting his head coaching shot finally. I don't know. I think Wyoming's got themselves a great one. We shall see. Thanks, guys. Jay Sawville. Man, that name was completely gone. Okay. There's something wrong with me, guys. There's something wrong with me. I'm getting old. This is a national college football YouTube channel. So I got to keep in mind of every single name, every coach. I think my brain gets overwhelmed at times. I think so. That's my excuse anyway. D5 Terps, I don't think bowl games are going anywhere anytime soon. Probably not, but they're just not going to mean as much. They're just not going to mean as much, in my opinion. Immaculate brings up a good point. There was an article yesterday. Harbaugh is hiring an agent, is another step towards him leaving. It doesn't guarantee he's leaving, but it's not a play to get more money from Michigan. They're already offered him an insane amount. That's correct. Harbaugh's already made moves behind the scenes to potentially go to the NFL after the huge offer was made to Jim Harbaugh. Great point by Immaculate. Think about it. He's already made some, he's not going to leave. Jim Harbaugh doesn't seem to be, he doesn't look like he's going to leave any stone turned over when he's thinking about evaluating him going to the NFL to get that NFL head coaching job one more time. I think he's 60 years old, 59, 61. This is his last time to jump into the NFL. If he wants to take it, the opportunity is going to be there for him, it sounds like. That's a great point, Immaculate. That is a great point. Okay, let's see here. So we are going to shut it down for this morning. It's 12:07 Eastern Time, 11:07 Central Time. We just wanted to do a PATC breakfast to close out a live show, to close out this 2023. It's been an unbelievable year in college football. I want to thank the PATC community being with us every step of the way. Into the Holy Smoke Theater, Greg the Cooler having a terrible winning percentage once again against the spread, talking about arguing, evaluating everything in college football. Hopefully we have covered the stories that you wanted us to cover. We try to cover everything. Coaching carousel, portal news, recruiting, stadium develop, of course, realignment. And our predictions, we've already done a way too crazy, too early predictions on the 12-team playoffs for next year. We're going to be doing that in another month. We're going to be doing that monthly. Our updated, way too early predictions of the 12-team playoffs. It's going to be a crazy 2024. It's going to be absolutely nuts. So if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to our channel. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure you get notified of any time we come on live. You'll get notified because we can come on live at any time. In the morning, during the afternoon, at night, late night. Breaking news. We cover it all here at Peek Around the Corner. We are a national college football YouTube channel. We survived because of all of your support. And 2023 was our second year. It was our best year, obviously, here. We appreciate all of your support, your comments, your donations, your phone calls, unbelievable feedback from you all. We love this game of college football. We're going to be seeing more changes in 2024. It's going to be off the rails, and I can't wait. Until next time, From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.